Ministre. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's very good to have you. So you used to be a tech entrepreneur, you used to be working in the ecosystem, and so now you're obviously Minister for AI and Digital Affairs for France. So since President Macron got elected in 2017, he has pushed a lot for the ecosystem. So can you maybe brief the international audience on where do we stand? We had pretty big announcements months ago with Mistral and NVIDIA, so glad to have your insights.
Great. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for hosting this event, because if we start with where do we stand, I would say first we stand here. The fact that there are so many of you coming to this event, I was joking, we're in the backside, saying that I have so many friends from my previous life who are like, oh, I'm actually coming to Paris for Race Summit, are you going to be here? That's a good sign on how I think we've managed to make this country as an attractive place for tech and for innovation in general. And the fact that you chose Paris to host this event is also a very good sign. So thank you for contributing to this, and thanks to everyone who's made the time in their very busy calendar, I'm sure, to come and spend a few days here, because this is definitely part of what has made Paris and France overall a success, is the ability to have people like you come in and participate into what we're trying to build. So you're right, back in 2017, when President Macron got elected, there was this very strong idea to say that France, who's historically been a powerhouse when it comes to scientific excellence, has all the ingredients when it comes to become a tech powerhouse. And so there's been a lot of work done over the course of the last 8 years, and that's actually personally this idea that brought me back to France, because I was in the US back then, and I wanted to contribute to making France a place where it's great to start businesses, to invest in tech, to contribute to these stories that we were building. And if I have to look back and look at how has worked, I think I can name quite a few things. The first thing is having a very strong, definitive pro-business agenda, which was part of the president's electoral agenda when he first got elected, and was been put in place since then. So lowering corporate tax, having a flat tax on capital gain, making sure that we simplify the way to set up business. And I'm sure there's a ton of stuff we can still continue doing, and that's why I'm here and so convinced to make it even easier, and I'll be happy to have a quick chat with all of you later. But that has definitely been part of the key ingredients for success. I would say two, attractiveness. You don't build a tech country if you're not able to have people tag along and come with you in the journey. And I think when I was in the US, I was doing my MBA in Boston back then, 2017. I always got teased by my colleagues or my classmates, because every time I would talk about innovation, they would say, "Oh, come on, France is great for luxury, maybe for bread, the baguette, but innovation, really?" And the fact that you're all here is testimony on how we've made it very clear to the world that not only we are strong on innovation, but we want you to contribute. And so that's why it's been a key pillar of this politics over the last 7-8 years now, is how to make sure we give all the people in this room, founders, investors, all the ingredients they need to choose France when it comes to build tech. And I would say the last piece of this equation is building a community. Yeah, it's going to sound very cheesy, but I do believe it's super important, because you have now a very vibrant ecosystem, very international ecosystem. I was away for 10 years when I left France. I have to say I would hear people speak mostly French. When I moved back to one of the big scale-ups we have in the country, I think we had like 52 nationalities. We had like so many languages spoken. Everything was obviously in English. And this change happened quite fast, actually, just a few years. And that has allowed us to create a vibrant, engaged community that goes way beyond the French borders, and that attracts everyone into this community, investors, funders, who are just building things together. And this is like what we've done with the French tech roster and brand that I'm sure so many of you have seen before, which I don't have pinned on my jacket today, but which was very important, because that gives a sign of recognition, a sign of creating this ecosystem and just working together.
Great. And so, except from talent, energy, what else is making France such an upspot for AI and such attractive? What is the secret, like French recipe behind it?
I would say consistency is probably the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, we live in a quite turbulent world. I'm sure everyone has seen. Since 2018, France was actually one of the very first country to say, okay, we have the ingredients to be an AI powerhouse, we're going to make it. And we put together the first national AI strategy back then, back before ChatGPT or Mistral, I hope, was in everyone's phone. And we built this strategy looking at, okay, what do we have that makes a huge difference in this race, and how do we double down on those ingredients? So you say very clearly talents, scientific excellence. So it's not a single trip. I travel a lot for this role because AI is also, and I'm not sure we're going to have time to touch on this, but AI is also a very political, geopolitical technology. It's not just about the economical and competitiveness benefits, but everywhere I travel, I always find French scientists. At some point, I was like, oh, maybe they're asking every French person they have in their company to have a chat with me because they think I don't speak English or something. But no, the reality is because we have the best scientists in the world when it comes to AI, and it's not by chance. It's because we had already this edge, and we doubled down on really financing science, financing research with the AI strategies that President Macron put together back in 2018. Energy. You said beyond energy, but energy is so critical. I mean, everyone working on AI today is looking for compute, and we have access to nuclear energy. So not only it's clean, it's stable, but it's there. It's already available to be used to build compute capacity, and I think that's the second ingredient that gives us an edge worldwide. Is when back at the summit, AI summit in February, we announced 109 billion euros investment into the infrastructure. It's because of this edge, because we have access to energy. And three is this ecosystem, the dynamic ecosystem that consistently, since now 8 years ago, we've been really supporting, pushing, financing, and I think the equation, the result of this equation is to say, like, it hasn't been any single day over the last 8 years that President Emmanuel Macron has not made it a priority to really push and give this ecosystem everything they need to be where we stand today. And we are fifth in the world when it comes to AI, which is really exciting because there's still so much to be built, and we're definitely in the race.
Thank you, Madame la Ministre. To bounce back on your point on energy, compute, infrastructure, we had two sessions this morning, one on AI, compute is the new oil, and on sovereign AI. And I think we do have amazing partners, testers, OVH Cloud, Scaleway, being here today. How do we, how can we compete vs the very big players in the US that pour billions into CapEx, into AI? And on the talent front, you're right, I think all the French are leading all the AI labs. What else, except from money, can we bring to the table?
Brain. No, I mean, definitely it's a race which requires quite a bunch of investments, but we're managing to track this investment, and I was saying brain, but I actually mean it. I think the fact that maybe we have a little bit more frugality in the way we're building AI is actually quite a key competitive advantage, because every company I'm talking to now, and maybe we'll talk about the last piece of this equation, which is how do we fathom the adoption of AI, and ultimately the adoption of AI with European AI for European companies to build this ecosystem to the get-go. But every time I talk to companies, one of the big questions they have is it worth it? And I'm sure a lot of you have started putting AI in all your processes, and the truth is that it's still quite expensive to deploy as a big company. And so the fact that we have approached it with more frugality, that our companies have approached it with more frugality, that we're still investing research into having more frugal AI is actually quite a competitive advantage, because those models will be cheaper to run, and if they're cheaper, they're going to be as performing, but also cheaper, which makes them very good candidates to bring all the potential they can bring to companies. So yeah, obviously it's a zero game, and we are attracting all the zeros we can. But it's not only that. I think it's also brain, and it's also obviously the way we're building the technology, trust. We are quite big on open source, as you know, because we think this is also a way to decrease the barrier of adoption to really create trust towards this technology. And we have some of the best players in the field, so this is how I see things.
And I think also I think we all realize here that we live in a kind of a bubble where we speak about AGI, ACI, but I think for the rest of the people that are not as committed to the topic, they are very far from what is going on, and I think that's why it's very important to underline what the government and what you have done for being very inclusive, for training the French citizens, companies, teachers, students. Maybe you can walk us through.
Yeah, I think this is probably the single question that keeps me up at night the most. A lot of questions keep me up at night, but this one is probably the most important as a Minister for AI, because there's so much potential, but the truth is, if you go out of this room and you go and meet people, and I've done that so many times in so many places in this country. We have like what we call AI coffees, where we just have a chat about AI with citizens. And I'm not here to sell the technology. I love to say I'm not the ambassador of AI. I am, but not only. But I hear the questions they have, and every single session, it's not exactly the vibe we have here. It's like I'm quite intimidated, or worse, I'm scared. How does AI work? Can it lie to me? Is it too complex for me? Is it going to replace me? Those questions are still very much vivid, and they're still very much alive. And so the only way we can get all the benefits from this technology is actually if we all start using it. And so as a government, we've decided, following up on the strategy that I've discussed, that President Emmanuel Macron started back in 2018, to say the last piece of the strategy is adoption. Because this is like quite paradoxical. Like, we have, on the one hand, we have this scientific excellence, and on the other hand, we're actually lagging behind when it comes to adopt AI. We have the brain, but we don't have the use cases, which is a problem we really need to solve, and we need to solve inclusively. Otherwise, we are going to basically reproduce what we've seen with all the tech disruptions we've had over the last 15, 20 years, where you just left behind part of your country. And so this plan we launched last week, actually, which is called Dare AI, Ozelia, is focused on, one, having real people in all their different activities, farmers, people who are owners of shops, company owners, doctors, actually showing very concretely how they use AI, and having a network of those ambassadors all around the country. Two, having training for 15 million French citizens, just really getting everyone up to speed on how to use AI once they've understood what it can do for their work. And three, actually pushing companies to understand exactly where are the best use cases, and act and go and deploy this technology with a bit of financial support. Because it's true that when you talk to like smaller, medium-sized companies, it is an investment, and as an investment, it requires a bit of time to actually get the return. So this is also where we come in, and it's fundamental, because we can talk about competitiveness, we can talk about all the GDP gains we want, but if people are not going to use it massively and equally, we are not really going to break all the benefits that we can have.
Fantastic. And so maybe because there is also a lot of...
And you can all be an ambassador if some of you want to be.
So apply, guys. Dare AI, or Ozelia in French. And I think because there is like many entrepreneurs in the room, how do you deploy such a program at scale? Because it has been like extremely successful. So
it's a very important question. So in France, and I mean it's the same in many countries, we're lucky we have already in place quite a few networks of corporate affairs, I would say. So we have like the Chambre de Commerce et d'Industrie, trade and industry chambers. We have La French Tech Network. I talked about La French Tech before, which is deployed all around the country. We have already a bunch, because we built this community, we have already a bunch of people who are organized to go the last mile and talk with all the company owners, who sometimes are very small companies, and drive them into this field. So we're really like relying on this collective work, because I don't believe like the state can decide something and things just happen. It's just not not how life works. So it's very important that we get everyone involved. BPI obviously has an amazing network as well. It's our public bank for innovation. So really put everyone in one room and said, okay, let's all contribute and let's all push in the same direction. And it started last week, but I'll follow up personally very closely on how things are getting deployed, and I'm hopeful that this will make a difference.
Great. And maybe if we go back to the French AI ecosystem, what is going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months? I know you're not going to predict exactly, but
we need to ask investors in the room. No, I think it's a very interesting phase, because we have some companies who are building very performing LLMs. I'm thinking about Mistral, H with the agentic models, who are pretty much in the race and making progress as we speak. And we're also starting to see a few really strong players when it comes to AI applied to a specific sector. I'm thinking health. Obviously, we have a very strong history with health. The industry has always been very innovative, and so it's quite natural that in this sector there's a lot happening with companies like Akemia, White Lab Genomics, actually like really shaping the way we are going to build the future of AI applied to health. And then there's a multiplicity of actors that are just like, you know, solving problems that the diversity of companies that I've mentioned are facing. And I think this turn of event is very important, because the very first thing when we ask companies why are you not deploying AI faster is, first, I don't really know what's up for me, and two is, where do I go? And that's probably our role, and also what we want to do with this plan, their AI plan, is to say, hey, this is a bench. We've now like started this listing of like the 120, 50 most promising companies that have solution for you. If you're a farmer, if you're a shop owner, if you're an entrepreneur, that can really deliver solutions and say, I mean, obviously there's as many solutions as there are use cases. So the market is huge, and I'm very excited to see how many people are bringing their technical expertise, their industry expertise, their sectorial expertise, combining it with AI and bringing solutions to the market.
Great. You mentioned earlier all the great French company in the AI ecosystem mostly are open source. And I think that the best open source actors in the AI space worldwide. Do you think we should keep investing in the vertical? Should we still be very, preserving that vibe and mindset?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that we put central into our AI Action Summit back in February was open source, because we're quite convinced as a country that first, this is the best way to reach the most performing models, but also it's quite important when it comes, and that's going to bring me to my geopolitical point, but when you have a technology that is so transformative, obviously the work we're doing in the country to get everyone along is very important, but there's also a geopolitical aspect, which is how do we make sure that the way we are building and giving access to this technology does not only benefit to the countries who have like the companies who are able to produce those models. And so part of the work we've done during the AI Action Summit was to build this fund, the current AI Foundation, to say how do we give access open source to open source models, tools for open source, community of people who are engaged into open source to all countries in the world, because there's so much potential that needs to be unlocked everywhere in the world. And so for those two reasons, we're still very committed to open source.
Last question. What should you say to all the talents worldwide that want to come to France, build in France? What should you tell them?
Choose France. We're ready to welcome you, and I think it's an extremely exciting time. I'm going to come back to stability, but I don't think that would necessarily be such an important aspect of the criteria just a few months ago, but we're a country who has never stopped believing in science, in education, liberty, in just bringing people together. And I think when we are building such technologies, those conditions are pretty important and pretty exciting. So it's a very vivid community. I'm sure we're going to have a grasp of all of that at this event and outdoor during the few days. And the President and Ursula von der Leyen, they launched this Choose Europe for Science program just a few weeks ago or a month ago, and there's a lot in it for everyone, so we'd be very happy to facilitate.
Thank you very much, and choose friends.